Well, I grew up in a small town, about 10,000 people, kind of a fishing town, tourist town in the summers. And it's not like we had a mall. We didn't even have a stoplight. We had one fast food restaurant. And so, growing up, all of our recreation was kind of outdoors. And I think that that certainly connected me with that place, but maybe more importantly now has connected me with a variety of different types of places, and I think the work really responds to place and space, and that certainly was influenced by my time in Alaska. I've always been a maker. I remember building forts in the backyard. So I initially went to school to study physical therapy and had a background in ceramics and left the physical therapy program to pursue ceramics and thought I was going to live out in the middle of nowhere and make pots. But I quickly kind of determined that that wasn't necessarily what I wanted to do, and sculpture provided an outlet for me to process kind of what I didn't like about the study of the body in the context of physical therapy, kind of this mechanical understanding of the body, and so that was kind of the inspiration for the first art and sculptural work that I made. Certainly, and I think maybe kind of backing up from studying physical therapy, just my experience, again, growing up in Alaska, but experience, I raced Nordic skiing, and I rode road bikes for a period of time, and I still try to run most mornings. And so that kind of physical exploration of place has been really important, and understanding spaces and places through my own body. And so breath and air had a connection there, but I think also it's kind of this conundrum of being everywhere but also incredibly fragile, and that felt like an interesting medium to just explore the present situation and problems and concerns that I have as a person living in the 21st century. I think the work starts with a very present sort of question that I intend to investigate or explore, and in order to kind of get my bearings in that situation, I often look to the past and often look to the way that materials were used, the way devices and instruments processed information. And so the work, like after that initial sort of impetus to start a project, the work often goes to history as a way to start to understand the present. Yeah, that's an interesting question. I think it certainly limits me just in terms of the amount of work I'm able to produce. I think the scale of the work sometimes limits where it can be shown and the distance I can go with it. But it's also, I think there's something really freeing about creating the components myself, and largely the reason I do, in terms of the just the freedom to customize things, to cut pulleys in precisely the right diameter so that you get the revolution that you want. And I think I wouldn't want to give up that physical connection to the work. I work mostly by myself. Not that I could afford an assistant, but I like that immediacy, and I think I think there's a dialogue with the work, and the work starts as an investigation or an exploration of an idea, and then it speaks back to you based on the materials that you're sourcing and the processes that you're using, and you're sort of testing your idea and testing your thought process, and sometimes it doesn't work, and you have to decide, is this so critical to the piece that I need to somehow find an alternate process, or is this not as critical to the idea and the piece as I originally thought, and you adapt a different way. And so I think for me, that's the real joy of the work, where there's a back and forth and a testing of the starting point of the piece. And so I guess I'm fine being as productive as I am. I wouldn't want to give up that kind of one-to-one connection with the work. That's a great question and a really exciting question. And I haven't given myself permission to think about that yet. It was sort of like, let's get to Friday, and then. But I think the work's going to change a little bit. I mean, there's things that are in the work that I probably will never get away from in terms of the physicality of the work, probably kind of the mechanical nature of the work. But I'm excited to think about what's next. The first thing I'm going to do is finish my studio, so I'm going to give myself a couple weeks to do that, and then start thinking about what's next. Once at a artist talk had someone ask, you kind of investigate all these problems, but the work doesn't really solve the problems. The work, at its best is maybe symbolically about solving the problems, and maybe there is a capacity that, like, my work could more directly try to bring about change. And so I think some of the collaborative work that I'm doing now seeks to do that, and so maybe the kind of more object-driven work could also do that.
That's good. Thank you, Sean. Very informative. Looking forward to the opening on Friday.
All right, thank you.